I think we can start. Good morning again. My name is Martin Strelani. I work at Puritan Power, and I will be moderating the webinar today. We will be talking about heating and cooling communities in Southern Europe. This webinar is organized by the ConnectHeat Project, funded by the LIFE program, which is slowly getting to its end, foreseen in September. And we will hear a little bit more about the project in some of the presentations today. So I would like to thank again all the attendees and all the panelists for joining this webinar. And I hope that you will find all the information valuable for your projects. So first of all, just a few words about the program. So you'll have a first presentation from Riccardo Battisti about what is heating and cooling community, because it's not always that clear. Then we will have a case from our project in Italy and also in Spain. Then we will move to tools for heating and cooling communities, where we will present some tools that we developed in the ConnectHeat project. We will also talk about heat planning and how heating and cooling communities could support or be included in the heat planning. And of course, we will have a presentation about the NECPs and how they can boost renewable heating and cooling, and also heating and cooling communities. And then in the end, some time will be dedicated to questions. So you can ask questions at any time in the question box, and then the question will be asked to the speakers at the end of the webinar, and they will answer them. So we have quite a nice number of speakers, which are renowned in the topic of heating and cooling cooling communities as well. We have Riccardo Battisti, the ConnectHeat coordinator from Ambiente Italia, Manuela Ortiz, who is the communication manager at the Energy Agency of Friuli, Venezia Giulia. We have Pilar Navarro Rivero from ITC in Gran Canaria, who is the head of Renewable Energy Department. We have Chiara Lazzari, Senior Project Manager in Ambiente Italia, Joanna Fernandes, Technical Project Coordinator at ADENE, Vasiliki Drossu, Head of Department at CRES, and Martin Stueni, myself, will moderate. Now, without further ado, I will give the floor to Riccardo Battisti, who is a mechanical engineer with PhD in energy, and who has over 15 years of experience managing EU-funded projects and communicating about sustainable energy topics. So, Riccardo, you can share your screen and tell us a bit about what is heating and cooling community.
Okay, thank you, Martin, for the introduction, and good morning, everybody. So as Martin was saying, I'm coordinating together with my colleague Chiara Lazzari the ConnectHeat project. Today I don't have a presentation because my task is to introduce a bit to the concept of heating and cooling communities. I will be very short because I would really like to leave the floor then to the practical cases that we developed in our project, and not only in our project. So I will show you what we are developing. We are almost at the final phase of this policy paper, let's say, which we call warmer and cooler together, so renewable heating and cooling for energy communities. First of all, a very short context framework. As you know, heating and cooling is responsible for almost half of the energy consumption in Europe, and it is still relying for almost 3/4 on fossil fuels. So it's really crucial to decarbonize this sector if we want to meet the European goals for decarbonization in general. We had several relevant changes in the legislation over the last years. I would like to mention two, which are particularly relevant for heating and cooling and for heating and cooling communities. One is the Article 25, if I'm not wrong, 26, I always get wrong, no, 26, sorry, of the revised energy efficiency directive, which is about efficient district heating and cooling. So this directive, as you see here in the table, is setting several intermediate targets until 2050 for having, let's say, efficient district heating and cooling. That means using a certain share of renewables or waste heat and so on. So of course, this is also influencing heating and cooling communities. And then there is another article which is linked to the heating and cooling plans. But I would not talk about that because there will be a dedicated presentation afterwards. So I will not do any spoiler of this. The idea of the ConnectHeat project started from the policy and communication gap that we have. So in the RED directive, Renewable Energy Directive, you know that several years ago it was introduced the concept of energy community, which then was transposed at national level in the member states. But this transposition was mainly focusing on electricity only and not on heating and cooling uh, sector, let's say. So as a result of that, the majority, if not almost all, let's say, the energy communities we know are focusing on electricity only. So heating and cooling is completely left out of this potential sector, let's say. While if you go to the original definition of the energy community that you have in the directive, of course, it is not written anywhere that you have just to provide electricity. The definition is much more general. And of course, it involves the supply of any kind of energy, and I would say even other possible services for the community. So we saw that there was a clear gap here in the policy, and of course, also from the point of view of communication. So usually when you think about an energy community, you think about electricity, supplying electricity, sharing electricity. Most of the times you even think only about photovoltaic, but of course an energy community is much more than this. So what is a renewable heating and cooling community? Of course, again, if you go to the original definition is quite broad and means that a renewable heating and cooling community can be involved in at least one of the following activities. This one you see here listed. So producing, consuming, and storing, of course, thermal energy, sharing this energy, and this could be, again, valid for both heat and cold, selling possible surplus thermal energy to external people, external actors which are not members of the community. Of course, there could be some form of collective ownership of the infrastructure, for example, for managing this production and sharing of the thermal energy. And there could be also some forms of collective purchasing, which means that the members of the community are pooling their budgetary resources to buy technologies or, for example, fuels if you go towards biomass at reduced cost. So you have basically three pillars of a renewable heating and cooling community. Of course, it should be the activities, let's say, should be related to energy. There should be some form of collective governance and decision making. And there should be, and this is, I must say that this third pillar is somehow also neglected in some of the energy communities in general, while this was one of the cornerstones of the original definition of the energy communities in the European directive. So there should be a redistribution of the social, environmental, and economic benefits that the community is bringing to the members. This should be redistributed to the members and to the territory, to the local community in general. So this is really very important to make, let's say, energy communities different from normal top-down energy projects. Okay, of course, just a small focus on this collective governance and decision making. This could take different forms and at different levels. For example, of course, there could be a cooperative, for example, managing a district heating network, which is then supplying heat to its members, which are also owners of the infrastructure. But there could be also some forms of lighter involvement. For example, the users are not owners, they do not own the infrastructure, but for example, they can have a say in the decisions regarding the infrastructure. So they could decide that the amount, the share of renewable energy could be and should be increased, and which kind of sources of energy sources they want to use, or they could invest in the community with some form of crowdfunding. So there are several possible forms of let's say, citizen participation in these communities. So from this point of view, it's exactly like the electricity communities. We also have some examples of real-life renewable energy communities. You will see some in our pilot cases, and also Chiara afterwards will tell you a bit more about that. I want to close with some concrete proposals for fostering heating and cooling communities. So we saw that there are some clear barriers that are now preventing the heating and cooling supply, let's say, to go into energy communities. Because of course, what we want is not to have a, let's say, a fight, a battle between electricity communities and heating and cooling communities. That would not make any sense. But the idea is really to have integrated communities, which are trying to use as much as possible the resources, the energy resources of the territory. And that means, again, being able to supply both electricity and heating and also cooling. So we developed this recommendation also in cooperation with an international stakeholder advisory board that we convened for having this feedback. So of course, first of all, we have to improve the legislation. So we have to explicitly include heating and cooling supply in the regulation of renewable energy communities. And this should be done at national level, of course, but also maybe at EU level, there should be some clear communication about that. Heat sharing is much more complicated than electricity sharing, especially for virtual models, but we can anyway think about some specific models for virtual heat sharing. And also there is a possibility of having heat prosumers, for example, on a district heating network, because any industrial process, for example, which is supplying heat, surplus heat by recovering this waste heat, but at the same time is using the heat from the district heating network, then they can be defined as a heat prosumers. Or a building which is using solar thermal on the roof, for example, they can also exchange heat with the district heating network. Financing and incentives, it's very important since usually we have an infrastructure associated with a heating and cooling community, even if this is not always the case, but many of the times it's like that. So there should be some risk reduction mechanisms. So how to finance this infrastructure, also reducing the investment risk. There could be, for example, some public support for investment in this infrastructure, or there could be some more, let's say, indirect incentives, which can be given to renewables, but then you use renewables for supplying this thermal energy to your community. And then in this case, you have some indirect incentive also to create an energy community. And of course, again, as I was saying before, a crucial point is a direct participation from the users, and this participation could be also from the financial side. So there should be a promotion of the cooperative models or crowdfunding models, crowdfunding initiatives that allow the local members of the communities to invest in this project. From the point of view of information, finally, it is very important to support the potential developers of heating and cooling communities, because of course on this topic the know-how is usually quite low, especially with respect to electricity. So um, there should be some structures which are providing this support. For example, you know that there are a lot of one-stop shops now, or support services for energy communities in general. Are they also able to provide support if you want to integrate heating and cooling supply in your community? Probably not. So it's very important that we can bridge this gap. Let's say, for example, in Denmark, where they have a long-term history with cooperative district heating, the National District Heating Association is also providing this kind of support to potential developers. Then second point, very important, the role of public administration. So local governments and public administration should be empowered, because their role in promoting and supporting heating and cooling communities is clearly crucial. because they can include these communities into spatial planning, energy modeling, as we will see also from the presentation from Joanna later, of course, in their local plans, let's say, for energy more in general. And then last but not least, and we will see some also in Chiara's presentation, it's very important to promote best practices. So examples are there. They are already, let's say, beyond the legislation which is not existing. We have examples, they should be collected, they should be analyzed, and we should make people aware of this fact. We learned a lot from many projects working on this topic, that the best way to convince a potential developer about the benefits, let's say, of a heating and cooling community is to take him or her and bring them to a real case for a study visit, let's say. So it's very important, again, that people know about these best practices. Okay, then it's all from my side. Thanks a lot for listening. And of course, if you have questions, you can follow the guidelines given by Martin at the beginning. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Riccardo, for the insightful presentation. A lot of interesting points and recommendations as well. Indeed, the legislation still seems to be quite a challenge, but it's also nice to see that despite this challenge, we have seen quite a few interesting examples of these communities, and they are not only utopia, but they actually exist, and hopefully it will go in the right direction in the near future, also with the help of the ConnectHeat project and the recommendations that we are pushing forward. Now, without further ado, I will shift to the next speaker, who is Manuela Ortiz from the Energy Agency of Friuli. She is a communication manager at the Energy Agency, and she's working on different EU and regional projects specialized in science communication. Manuela, I will give you the slide control, and
thank you.
You can take over, and the floor is yours.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So today I will present the pilot case within ConnectHeat in Friuli Venezia Giulia region in Italy, which is located in the town of Gemona. I am actually taking the place of my colleagues Matteo and Martina, who are busy at another project meeting, but I will do my best in presenting it to you. And okay, yes, so as you can see, the pilot project is located in the small town of Gemona del Friuli. We are in the northeast of Italy, near to the Austrian and Slovenian borders. It is a small town, as you can see from the picture. We are in a mountain area, and this will play an important role because actually could play an important role because there is, of course, availability of local wood biomass. And the town of Gemona, the municipality actually of Gemona, is part of a mountain community of the Gemona territory, which is called Comunità di Montagna del Gemonese, and alongside other 5 municipalities. Gemona is the biggest one, and let's say it plays the role of leader, let's say, to the group of municipalities. And this configuration actually will be important in the funding of the project, as you will see in a bit. Let's see if it works. Yes. So the main features of the pilot project are these. So it is located in a high heat demand area. We are taking, in fact, into consideration a school complex. In Gemona, there are middle and high schools. There is also a university, which is a spin-off to the Udine University, but it is located in another part of the town, so it couldn't be considered for in this case. And the most particular characteristic feature of the project is that it involves actually the nearby crematory, because near to the school complex, uphill and let's say also hidden, quite hidden from side, there is the local cemetery and the crematory. And this means that there is this important possibility to recover waste heat from it. And so these are the starting points. The district heating network actually received 2 different financial sources for its construction. The first one are regional funds, and the other one are the NRRP funds, so National Recovery and Resilience Plan, which actually goes back to the Next Generation EU. This was an important occasion for the town, but also it presented a lot of challenges and stringent deadlines, as I will tell you, because the municipality participated at the end of 2022 with the help from our agency and won a green community call within this NRRP plan. And what are green communities? They are projects aiming to boost a sustainable development in the local planning, but not just from, let's say, an energy point of view, an energy side, but also including water, agriculture, mobility, and tourism. So the funding that the town received, which, if I remember correctly, was 3.5 million euros, has to be distributed in a lot of sectors, in a lot of activities. One of them is the district heating network. But the most, let's say, the biggest challenge is that this fund states as mandatory the end of the project, and also the construction of the network by March 2026. Which means that the municipality had little time to consider its, let's say, the whole picture, and we are getting closer to the deadline. Okay, let's go on so I can show you. Let's see if it works. Yes. So here is an above view of the actual site. And on the left, you can see the school complex. Some buildings are already there, of course, while the black boxes you see in the picture are the ones that are being, they are under construction. And at least I can assure you that the 2 above ones, the 2 new school gyms are under construction, because on my way to the office, I pass outside the construction, the work site, so I actually see them every morning, and they are being built right now. And while at the right of the picture, you see the cemetery uphill, and the site of where the heating plant is going to be built near the crematory. So here we have mainly public buildings, and we have also a swimming pool and a gym, which are open to the citizens, to the population, so are not dedicated only to the schools. And here I've listed some technical details of the project. One of them is, I mean, I will tell you later, but let's say this is actually the final configuration of the network, because at the beginning, actually there were some other possibilities to include also the nearby hospital, but it was not possible, at least in this phase. So this is actually, for now, the final configuration. The linear heat density is quite an important parameter, because actually this network is going to be designed and managed by the QM standard. This is just from my side a little insight from the QM standard, which has been developed specifically for biomass district heating systems in Northern Europe. And it was created from Swiss, German, and Austrian partners. And as you see, it covers all phases of the design, construction, and operation of the plant. And the most important thing is that it guarantees the both economic and environmental sustainability of the plant, which is very important also on our territory, where district heating plants in the past have not been built, let's say, taking into consideration these important parameters. And Chiara and Riccardo know it well, because actually the QM standard has been adopted also in Italy and Friuli Venezia Giulia, thanks to another European project that started in 2029 and ended in 2022, which is Interreg Central Europe in-train project. So this is just to start laying the basis for actually the whole picture, the community model that we are going to discuss, because we are talking about the certification in this case at the bottom of the supply chain. And another thing that has to be considered is actually the certification of the whole supply chain, because what I will tell you in a bit, but this project actually has presented a lot of potential, given its location, given its starting phases, but also has given a lot of challenges to us. And what actually we are still trying to consider is the sustainability of the whole chain, and this would mean to take into consideration also the certification at the start of the chain. So at the forest planning, at the land management, and let's go back to the first. Sorry. Let's go back to the first things that has to be said about it. So the benefits for the users would of course be a better price of heat, a conversion from fossil fuels to renewable energy, and a significant reduction of the costs. This especially is true for the swimming pool, which will be one of the users of the district heating network that had to deal with important energy costs in the last few years, and would greatly benefit actually from the network. Alongside the benefits for the users are those of the whole community. So the use of local resources for a greater energy autonomy, a creation of local jobs, and a sustainable management, as we were saying, of the whole supply chain. However, let's see if it works. However, as I was saying, we had to face quite a few obstacles. So the first one is that, at least in this first phase, we are actually having to deal with a top-down project, because the municipality and the mountain community were the two main actors actually that shaped the project at the beginning, and also the funding was the funding that the municipality received imposed these stringent deadlines, which at least in this phase didn't allow the actors involved to actually involve the population. And the most difficult thing for us, for our agency, was actually this dialogue and cooperation with the municipality. At first, it seemed like there was a greater possibility of involvement. We discussed several configurations. We had a lot of encounters with them, but actually at this stage they decided that it is not yet the moment to involve the population. Also, there were some technical difficulties, so the necessity to scale down the project as some stakeholders left. In fact, at the beginning, there were more users that were interested in joining the network, and also changes in the plans, building design, and bureaucratic delays that it looks like they are finally being, let's say, overcome in the last few months. Nonetheless, it is a project that has a lot of potential. Actually, we think it has a lot of potential, because here I have listed the actors involved. And so apart from the local municipality, the owners of the buildings and the district heating network operator that will manage the network with the QM standard, there are also, from one side, the forestry companies, and from the other side, the private citizens. So here, now we come into the last part of the presentation, where actually I'm going to present you the idea of what could be done in the future after the first phase of the construction of the network will be done, and when the municipality will actually allow a further involvement and a further participation of more actors in the network. And so what actually we tried to tell them is this idea of what could be done, taking in consideration the whole supply chain. So the challenge, but also the added value in this project could be, in fact, the involvement of both sides of the supply chain, from the production to the final users. So we have envisioned a model, let's say, where a local cooperative forestry company could deal with the first part of the wood biomass retrieval, and this actually would mean also a better land management, and would also mean to contrast the forest parceling, while at the bottom end of the supply chain would actually be the real heating community, also that could be also managed as a cooperative model with supply contract and with control over the cost of the thermal heat. These two entities would be linked by, of course, by the management of the district heating network itself. But Riccardo also was talking about prosumers earlier, and this also means that the members of the heating community could also be managers of the district heating network, and would be key partners in the governance and financial models of the cooperative and of the heating community. So just to give you an overview of our idea of what could be done, this is what actually biomass district heating, what happens when biomass district heating meets heating communities. There is here a list of key activities and key actors involved, and this taking, in fact, into consideration, as I was saying, both sides of the supply chain, and linking them to actually ensure environmental and economic sustainability of the project. And the most important thing would actually be a dialogue between these two communities. So what we are trying to do now is to actually lay the basis for this community model that could take place in the near future. We are also involving nearby municipalities where there is, let's say, maybe a bit more fertile soil, fertile ground, and which are interested, could be interested in this model. And yes, for now, this is the situation, but we see some greater development in the nearby future. So this is it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much on your side as well, Manuela. I will now go to the next presentation. Now we will have a presentation from Gran Canaria, done by Pilar Navarro Rivero, a senior expert in renewable heating and cooling with over 2 decades of experience in research, innovation, and project coordination. Pilar, you should have the control of the slides now. I would also like to ask you to keep the time because we are running a little bit late. Thank you in advance, and the floor is yours.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you, Martin. Yes, today, okay. Today I'm going to show you the work already done to create a pilot case for renewable energy community in Spain, Canary Islands. San Bartolomé de Tirajana has a population of more than 52,000 inhabitants, but due to the tourist character of the municipality, its real population is higher, and we receive more than 52,000 visitors per day. It's the largest municipality on the island of Gran Canaria and covers a large part of the south coast. In which the highest concentration of tourist establishments in Gran Canaria you can find, accounting more or less 67.5% of the tourist offer. Tourist areas, especially older ones, are characterized by the coexistence of high category hotels, extra hotel and lower category hotel establishments, and residential buildings in a densely built up urban areas. The implementation of technologies and the improvement of energy efficiency in the sector has been uneven. Higher category hotels are more professional in their energy management, while extra hotel and lower category hotel establishments have bigger technical and economic difficulties in making progress in their decarbonization. The uniqueness of tourist offer in the Canary Islands means that heating swimming pools during the winter months represents a significant energy consumption and also a technological challenge because, it's very big, the consumption, but on the other hand, it's the only centralized installation in most non-hotel establishments and residential buildings. This is the area of action in which we are working. You can see the blue buildings are high category hotels. There are 5 in the area. We also have 15 extra hotels and lower category hotels. Most of them are small, medium, and medium enterprises. And we have also 8 residential buildings with 149 dwellings in the area that are the green ones. The tourist sector is the region's economic engine in Canary Island, and its contribution to the economy represents 35.5% of the GDP and 39.7% of the total employment and 14% of global electricity demand in the region. At the same time, they are pioneers in the integration of renewable energies, solar thermal energy and photovoltaic solar energy, together with very low enthalpy geothermal energy, have established themselves as the most widely used renewable energy sources in the sector. And also there is a trend towards the electrification of thermal demand through the widespread use of heat pumps. At the same time, the tourists face the challenge of reducing the activity carbon footprint in order to respond to a market that is increasing demand in the decarbonization of the economy. And in this sense, the energy communities are welcomed with optimism by the sector, but there's a clear need for training and supporting these community initiatives. Furthermore, the sharp increase in operating cost, particularly energy cost, pose a high risk of loss of tourist activity, which generally switches to residential use. The loss of economic activity in this business segment has a direct impact on the Canary Islands economy. ITC has developed a methodology for assessing heating and cooling demand in the tourist sector based on GIS tools. The results show that energy demand for heating and cooling in the municipality of San Bartolomé de Tirajana is 221.2 gigawatt-hour per year, with outdoor swimming pool heating accounting for near 60% of the total heating and cooling demand. Heating and cooling density maps have been drawn up, and areas of potential interest for the deployment of these heating and cooling networks have been identified. We need to understand that the Spanish regulations require that both the production of domestic hot water and the heating of outdoor swimming pools be associated with renewable heat generation, with a minimum contribution of 70% and 100% respectively. The analysis of the local context has shown that the extra-hotel establishments, lower category hotels and citizens face significant barriers to accessing high-efficiency technologies and renewable energies due to the difficulty of making the necessary investments and also the scarcity of available space on roof and plots for the integration of renewable energies. These barriers make it difficult and in many cases also impossible to comply with current regulations. At the same time, there are not district heating and cooling networks in Canary Islands, although tourist areas represent a great opportunity for the development of such projects. District heating and cooling traditional operators consulting point to the lack of specific regulations to encourage investment in these systems, the lack of leadership from public authorities, and the scarcity of abundant, low-cost renewable energy sources to make projects viable. It should be noted that more than 70% of the district heating networks in Spain use forest biomass as their main fuel, so it's not possible to replicate this technological configuration in the Canary Islands. So the objectives of the ConnectHeat Project Community Energy Project is to establish a renewable energy community, to promote the construction of the district heating and cooling system as a key element for the decarbonization of the tourist center of Playa del Inglés. We want to work with enable the aggregation of thermal demand from different consumers, optimize the synergies, recover waste heat, and efficiently manage the generation of heating and cooling, as the scale factor facilitates the integration of high-efficiency technologies and renewable energy. The long-term goal is designing a pilot case which can be a replicable energy community model throughout the rest of the territory to guarantee emission-free buildings and affordable energy solutions for citizens, small and medium enterprises, strengthening the resilience of tourist areas to external factors such as energy cost volatility and extreme weather. Of course, economic benefits are rare, but not only economic benefits we are trying to find. The renewable energy community would work to implement a district heating and cooling system designed as an integrative project that generates economical, social, and environmental benefits for the partners or members of the renewable energy community, but also for the urban area where the network is deployed. We want also positioning the region and the tourist sector as a benchmark for sustainability, boosting the local economy by generating local and green jobs, also promoting regional economic development by attracting new investments, promoting the transfer of technical knowledge, and promoting social cohesion. The same as small and medium enterprises and also large enterprises working together. Okay, one of the first steps in the development of the project has been to promote the creation of a stakeholder advisory group. The main members of the stakeholder advisory group who have accompanied the project since its beginnings are Las Palmas Federation of Hotel Business and Tourism, the Municipality of San Bartolomé de Virajana, the local authority, the Gran Canaria Isla government, that is also the regional public authority, the Sustainable Tourism and Development Research Group, University of Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, and Technological Institute of Canary Island. The analysis of exchange of information between the members has made it possible to identify local needs and expectations regarding to the development of the village community. We have very nice and strong communication with Las Palmas Federation of Tourism. They bring together 4 associations which represent the whole tourist enterprises. They are supported to ITC to raise awareness in the sector and assess interest in community energy projects, field of heating and cooling, and also in electricity generation, because it was clear from the beginning that the sector needs a demonstration project, and this demonstration project should include heating and cooling, but also electricity generation. This collaboration has been a key element to identify target groups. This group is formed by small and medium enterprises and citizens, community of citizens, residential buildings. They are the members of the which have the bigger technical and economical difficulties in making progress in their decarbonization. Also, with this collaboration, have been a key element to identify several areas of potential interest for the development of the pilot case. We have studied areas with planned urban generation, road works available of nearby plots, older thermal regeneration technologies, in general areas in where we can find small and medium enterprises, multi-dwelling buildings, and at least 1 4-star hotel located. Okay, over the last 2 years, numerous activities have been organized to raise awareness in the sector, online meetings, but also face-to-face meetings with relevant stakeholders. You have participated in several forums about decarbonization and about urban regeneration. We have organized a workshop to the sector decarbonization. We have developed an online survey to ask potential interest to set up the first pilot case and support its development. Also, we have done experimental data collection campaigns to measure current energy consumption, and in parallel, the energy costs and their variation between large and small consumers have been analyzed. Also, we have organized 4 training seminars designed to transfer knowledge and strengthen the capacity for the sector, with the participation of representatives from other energy communities in the Canary Islands, but also in other regions, with which synergies have been established. So the activities carried out and the support of the stakeholder advisory group have made it possible to identify in one area of action, pilot case, to promote the development of the project, to define integrated project. Okay, this is our area of action, the community in which, okay, at the same time we are working to constitute a community energy board made up of 4 tourist small and medium enterprises, 1 community of owners of 24-unit residential building, both then located in the pilot case, and Las Palmas Federation of Residential and Tourists. The aim of the Community Energy Board established itself as a renewable energy community to promote the project for the generation and distribution of renewable heating and cooling, and the generation also of renewable electricity for collective self-consumption. This is the area in which we are going to work. You can see the blue buildings are small and medium enterprises, and the red ones are residential buildings. In this picture, I don't include the large enterprises because it's not possible for them to be members of the renewable energy community. But of course, they cannot participate in the governance of the community project, but the renewable energy community will be able to carry out cooperative operations with them to integrate waste heat and thus increase the energy efficiency of the district heating network.
Could you please conclude in 1 minute or 2, Pilar? Thank you.
Okay, maybe. Okay, so this is the final technological configuration that prioritizes the use of the local renewable energy sources, seawater for renewable heating and cooling, and solar radiation for also renewable electricity and heat. We are going to use water heat pumps with a capacity of 791 kilowatts and connected to very low enthalpy coastal geothermal boreholes to generate 3,177 megawatt hour per year, which is going to be distributed through 1,000 meters long fifth generation district heating network. Okay, this technological configuration above means that 86% of the energy distributed by the network is renewable. And with this configuration, we are able to reduce the CO2 emissions respect to the current situation about 53.8%. Very quickly, because I have time. The community model that we are going to apply, because in the Spanish Revolution we don't have a specific legal status for renewable energy community, but it should choose a legal entity that best fit the definition of renewable energy community. And we decide to adopt the legal form of a non-profit consumer and user cooperative. Because, okay, the definition of these legal forms want to do in the knowledge community. The governance, the principle of the governance is the one man, one vote, was to ensure autonomy and internal decision making. The participation model guarantee the principles of inclusion and equity among members. I'm going to very quickly. The next step in the short term is establish the renewable energy community and to draw up the technical projects necessary to obtain the permits and concessions required for the execution of the project. To this end, we applied last December a regional program to access economic incentives to prepare to this first document. Yesterday we received a positive answer, so we have some budget already available to continue with the process to constitute or to legal constitution of the renewable energy community, and also to promote the participation of citizens and the rest of citizens in small medium enterprises located in the area where the district network will be deployed. And in the medium to long term, we want also to prepare on the project to apply for the national program for unit pilot project in energy communities. It's a very big program managed by the Institute for Energy Diversification and Saving. And we can obtain at least the minimum of 60% of the cost of the investment. So, which make it the implementation of the project economical BA. Okay, I think maybe I am out of the time. Martin, you say it's okay for me.
Yes, thank you very much, Kira. Thank you very much, Pilar. It was been very insightful and full of information. We are running a little bit late. Well, quite late. So I count on Chiara now to win us some time.
I will try to be as quick as possible, but and just to leave the space and time to more interesting. Okay.
We will
okay.
share the presentations with the speakers.
Thank you so much.
Some slides were not shared. You will be able to see them once we share the slides, and I will just quickly present Chiara as well.
Okay.
Chiara is an experienced energy planning expert with over 25 years of experience supporting public authorities and local governments in their energy transition and decarbonization strategies across Europe. So Chiara, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So in few words, I'm an old lady anyway. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you to be here. I will try to be as quick as possible. With my presentation, I would like to give you an insight of the ConnectHeat projects and to present you main lessons learned and tools developed to promote the development and diffusion of heating and cooling energy community, let's say, but just keep in mind that we are the first European initiative promoting this kind of topic. Let's say we are quite eager of that. So the starting point was how to fill in the gap of the national strategies concerning the heating and cooling community initiatives. So the idea the starting question, the question that we started with this question: what do we need to promote and support the development and diffusion of this kind of initiative? So in this presentation, in the following, I will present some concrete proposals of tools, measures, and lessons for heating and cooling community projects development and diffusion. Of course, we are still working because the project will end in September. So further inputs and results will come in the next month. So stay tuned for please. So first lessons learned from the project: we do not have to invent the wheel and start from scratch. So as already Ricardo said before, an important point is just to investigate and learn from already existing experiences. So the idea of the project was to research, exploit, and adapt already existing approaches, methodologies, and results coming from renewable energy community initiatives, both in the electric sectors, but also in the heating sectors. So, sorry. Because as Ricardo said, the legislation is clearly lagging behind the real life. So many examples exist of community electric projects in the heating and cooling fields. And so the idea was just to detect, select, identify, detect, and learn from them. All these examples have a participative approach, and they deal with heating and cooling. They also are based on a massive use of and integration of local RES and they often combine several energy sources and several technologies. So they are really a good starting point to promote and to promote the diffusion of such kind of initiatives. So based on that, as I said, we detected and collected this kind of initiatives, and we prepared an online map. We set up an online map, a free online map available on our website, and we started collecting these initiatives. So the map will survive the project. It will at least for 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. So you can find it at the link I wrote in the slide. And please, if you have good examples, provide it, suggest it to the map, download the form, and send us your proposal, for example, good example. And okay, second, lessons learned, setting the scene. So it is we realize that it is really important to create a solid base of knowledge of the local and Haiti context before starting any kind of initiative. So it's necessary to assess the national and regional frameworks, the local existing local strategies and plans, energy, urban, territorial plans and strategies. And particularly, it's very important to assess the local energy system, considering main trends and critical aspects as for energy and heating and cooling, local demand and supply. This is a basic point, a really important starting point. Without that, it's quite difficult to promote effective initiatives in the heating and cooling sector. So another important lesson learned is to prepare the ground and build local capacity. So the idea is important to know the territory, so to clearly identify and map target groups and key stakeholders acting locally. So it is important to provide a preliminary but really detailed information to increase local awareness and increase accessibility within local communities. So it is important to prepare and promote tailor-made initiatives targeting different target groups. And also it's really important to transfer knowledge and train local communities and key actors just to enhance their skills and expertise and enable them towards energy transition and energy and cooling community, let's say. So in these fields, the ConnectHeat project promoted and realized several activities and obtained really good results. We promoted, organized, and realized more than 30 training sections. We worked at different levels, on local level, national levels. Also, we tried to work also outside the boundary of the project and outside the project countries. So 30 training sessions, 3 EU webinars. One of them is this one. We are planning 2 EU thematic webinars and also national events, just to increase knowledge, increase know-how and skills to support the development of such kind of initiatives. So furthermore, we are supporting 7 pilot replicators. So we selected some replicator cases, let's say, and we are just supporting them and training them in cooperation with all the project pilots, let's say. We have 2 pilot replicators in Italy, 3 in Germany, and 2 in Belgium. But it's a really good working groups. All the project pilots are cooperating in supporting these pilot replicators interested in setting up initialize initiatives in the heating and cooling sector. Furthermore, we are working on on a blueprint for actions in which we will collect really concrete inputs and suggestions for the development and replication of connected methods and approaches. We are working on it. It will be ready and made available on our website within the end of the project, so within summer, to be more precise. So another important lessons learned, it's really important to promote and develop pilot projects and initiatives. They are really useful to detect barriers, problems, and challenges, to investigate and test most effective approach, models, and technical solutions. And they also allow us to verify and monitor the overall sustainability of such kind of initiatives, so to monitor and verify costs, socioeconomic benefits, or impacts as well. And so we work in this direction, and as you could see from previous presentations, the ConnectHeat project implemented 7 pilot projects promoting community energy initiatives in the heating and cooling sectors. Each pilot is foreseeing the technical feasibility and the socio-economic and environmental sustainability analysis. So the idea was also to detect and propose also financial plans and governance and business models. All the results, the main results from our pilots, will be collected in specific fact sheets, both in English and in national language, and will be made available on the website, just for good example for future replicators. One point is really important. The pilots are quite different one from each other, so they involve different sectors, different territories, and different technologies. And so we think they could really effectively represent the European framework, and so quite easily they can be replicated. So we try to over. Another really important lessons learned, and then Joanna will deep into this topic, is to assign a central role to local and regional public authorities. So heating and cooling is strongly depends on the local conditions, and so it is necessary to look at it from a systems perspective. So in this sense, the local and regional authorities can make the difference. So because they have a cross-sectoral responsibilities and roles as decision makers, target sectors, urban planners and regulators, service providers, building stock, and public facilities owners. So they can also be manager and promoter on the territory, because they know the territory, so they can detect the right sources that can be involved and play a central role. And so the local and regional authorities were our main target groups, and they can contribute in different ways, such as through the revision and update of their existing energy strategies, such as SECAP or SEAP. They can develop, and you can see further in the following presentation, specific plans, local heating and cooling plans. They can also translate long-term strategies in short-term action plans for heating and cooling community energy. So we work within ConnectHeat in these directions. So our target area, regions or municipalities, are working on roadmaps to promote the diffusion of heating and cooling communities. So we are working on that. First drafts have been prepared, but final version of these roadmaps will be ready within July. Here I list some main topics they are facing and focusing on, but clearly each roadmap has will be tailor-made, considering the local situations and also the results of the pilot. So the focus will be on legislation and regulations, so on the update of the existing legislations and regulations, on the financing and incentives models. So they will try to detect the most effective supporting schemes to promote the diffusion of such kind of initiatives. They also are working quite hard on the integration of the energy planning with other planning levels, let's say. This is a really important point. So it's necessary that the energy planning can dialogue with other levels of planning, just to ensure effective energy strategies and so effective strategies supporting the heating and cooling community diffusion. So another important point concerns the detections of the potential of local RES and enable technologies at local levels. So it is really important to work with the sources that we have on our territories. So these slides just to give you a short overview of the ConnectHeat project approach. It's quite effective in my opinion. So that's it from my side, but just, okay. Stay tuned, visit our website and LinkedIn page. On our website, we prepared a specific session. We called it Knowledge Hub, in which you can find all our outcomes or our materials, training materials, deliverables, and so on. So you can find everything there. And that's it from my side. And but once again, stay tuned because the project is still going on. So we will have further more results and more inputs from our sides. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Chiara, both for the inspiring presentation and for gaining some more valuable minutes in this webinar. Indeed, a lot of interesting tools and results in the ConnectHeat project, which are and will be available to all of you. So please keep an eye on them because some more are coming in the next months. And now I will give the floor to Joana Fernandes, who is an experienced energy project manager with over 20 years in urban planning, smart cities, energy efficiency, renewable energy, and with a strong expertise in public policy and European project management. She's also the coordinator of the Plan for Code project that she will speak a little bit about now. So, Joana, I give you the floor, and I hope that the slide switching works for you.
Thank you so much, Martin. I believe they do.
Thank
you very much for the invitation to participate in today's webinar and for the previous speakers. Wow, such an inspiration for the work we are doing here at Plan for Coal. So a lot of studies and interesting articles and examples to keep up in the upcoming years. So Plan for Coal has just started. We started last October, and basically we are a project dealing with our live project. So we are dealing with local heating and cooling plants. The previous speakers already shared a bit about that, and we are pretty much active in 3 main countries, so Greece, Italy, and Portugal, and we have 2 fellow countries in Croatia and Spain. And why do we have this specific geographical focus? Because we are specifically addressing South European municipalities. So we want to support South European municipalities to define their local heating and cooling plans within the framework of the new Energy Efficiency Directive, which requires municipalities with more than 45,000 inhabitants to define local heating and cooling plans. And of course, we have been discussing a lot about district heating and cooling, but the truth is that, these are just the partners that are in the Plan for Coal consortium, so 15 partners from national energy agencies to regional energy agencies and technical partners supporting all the development of the resources and guidelines that we need. And basically, we have already spoken a bit about how much heating and cooling represents in terms of the EU energy consumption. We have already spoken that there's a diverse approach in how the topic is treated throughout Europe, and there's a clear lack of data, resources, know-how, and appropriate financings. And if you think these are really very pressing challenges for South European cities, the challenges are even higher, I would say. Well, we have very much decentralized infrastructure, so most South European cities do not have district heating and cooling networks. We have seen some good examples of now for smaller consumer-driven initiatives, but this is the reality, the picture nowadays. We also have rising cooling needs, so basically heating is not such a big topic, but cooling is starting to be an essential topic to address. And we have very inefficient building stock, so low refurbishment rates, old and inefficient heating appliances, and a very low replacement rate for these heating appliances. And as Vasiliki will also share with you a bit in the next presentation, we have covered pretty much all the policies around heating and cooling, and there are lack of targets and ambitious policies to address properly the heating and cooling decarbonization. And of course, there's always a short financial capacity to deal with these topics. What we are dealing with is basically the framework within the Renewable Energy Directive that for the first time set an obligation to have renewable sources in the heating and cooling. So there's a mandate to promote the decarbonization of heating and cooling. We have the Energy Efficiency Directive. So member states need to be more efficient and to reduce their energy consumption. And there's also setting the framework for the local heating and cooling plants. And also we have the EPBD that provides additional insights on how buildings should perform and have specific mandates for progressive renovation, deployment of solar technologies, and also a more detailed assessment on heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. So this is basically setting out the framework, but what exactly is set in the legislation about local heating and cooling plants? And so Article 25.6 is already very exhaustive in terms of what should be considered in these local heating and cooling plans. So, and the first highlight here is that it should be based on the comprehensive assessments that member states have to develop to estimate and map the potential for increasing energy efficiency and renewables at this level regarding heating and cooling. And let me just frame that within this exhaustive assessment, this comprehensive assessment that should be developed by the member states, district heating and cooling is just one of the topics that is listed in the portfolio of technologies that should be addressed. So clearly here the Commission is driving member states to look beyond the conventional solutions. So look for RES, look for cogeneration, high efficiency cogeneration, look for geothermal, look for solar, waste heat. So there's a wide portfolio of sources available, and that's the first mindset that we need to shift. That we need to think beyond the conventional sources. We need to think beyond the conventional solutions, exclusively looking into district heating and cooling, and look way more for new innovative solutions, namely this consumer-led initiative. So you can, of course, consult, but basically what we want to work with in Plan for Cold is also moving a bit, let's say, forward in this, already this exhaustive listing of topics that we should address for the fine local heating and cooling plants. And we want to take a step, I would say, behind and start also looking at urban planning, because we know, and it's common throughout Europe, that there are more and more heat waves. We have heat island effects throughout the cities, and definitely we need to tackle this. On the one hand, if we can tackle this properly, we enhance the urban area and we create more livable spaces for citizens to enjoy the urban space it's also a very effective way to communicate with the citizen, explaining exactly what we are doing here and how the municipality is setting up the example, trying to make more fruitful areas. And then, of course, then we have the buildings. At the building level, we should look into the passive measures and the part of the renovation and design, and then to the active measures, of course. That's the energy efficiency principle working at its best. And then we need to involve the citizens, and we need to promote behavior change also towards more heat adaptive behaviors, and how we can effectively use more efficiently our houses and the solutions that we have available. So this is the concept, and what are we, how are we working in Plan for Cold? So we have a kind of a roadmap. The first idea is to develop guidelines, so to support the definition of local heating and cooling plans in South European municipalities. As Chiara mentioned also, there are plenty of resources and tools available, so we don't need to invent the wheel. A lot has already been done. It's let's say a work in progress in several fronts. So here we need to tackle what exists, what has already been developed, and guarantee that there are tools available to support the definition of the plan throughout each of the steps that need to be taken in its definition. So it's a matter of creating a coherent pathway to, let's say, check all the points, all the topics in the plan. We, of course, need to engage all the relevant stakeholders from national, regional, and local authorities, develop capacity building materials to train them, to train specifically local and regional authorities, but also engaging with the private sector to know more and to be involved in the whole process, organize training sessions, and then work side by side with municipalities and identify the best practices and share recommendations. So we have several municipalities to tackle, several have to comply with this obligation, and it's essential to provide recommendations and best practices. On the policy dimension, I just want to emphasize how these three areas, these three levels need to interact. We need to have a multi-level dialogue. So from the national dimension, it's crucial to set the national targets and the strategies and communicate them towards the regional and local authorities so that they know exactly what their role is supposed to be in this transition process. Share the key success factors, learnings and best practices that you know from other cases, the definition of recommendations for regional and local authorities, of course. Providing financial support, that should also be in the listing in terms of incentives, direct support to municipalities, direct support to the investors, to make sure has a way to move forward. At the regional level, of course, one of the possibilities is also to develop regional local heating and cooling plans, so benefiting from the joint and trans-local investment in infrastructure. So the regional dialogue with the frontier municipalities is essential. Also to capitalize the renewable potential for heating and cooling. And of course, at the local level, there are plenty of sources for heating and cooling. Some of them come from private entities, so engage with the local stakeholders, ensure that there's a customization to local needs. Of course, every geography, it's very particular, so we need to customize the resources that we have to the local authorities' needs, mobilize public and private players, and of course, consider vulnerable consumers and energy communities as well, and the role they can play has already been shared by the previous speakers. So the top 10 in terms of outputs, we will develop the methodologies and guidelines to support the operationalization and monitoring of these sustainable local heating and cooling plans, develop this toolbox of existing resources, provide capacity building sessions, and at the end have 10 sustainable local heating and cooling plans developed in cooperation with local and regional authorities. And this will also be the driver for the policy recommendations. On the methodology, so what we have been working so far, we envision 3 main steps. So the baseline assessments, we can't really plan for anything if we don't know how much we need in terms of energy for heating and cooling. And if we can't estimate the forthcoming needs. So it's essential to have a straight baseline. And here I can tell you that data, and specifically for cooling data, cooling needs and cooling consumption, it's shortest. So definitely there's need to be some work done on that level. Then we need to define the intervention and decarbonization scenarios, so all the options on the table, evaluate and compare scenarios, and effectively define our roadmap. So what we have been also doing is evaluating all the tools and resources that are available. I can tell you that we have covered by now around 50 resources, so from tools, databases, softwares, methodologies to make assumptions and to estimate. So a lot of available materials. We have evaluated them in several categories and understood exactly their applicability, their adequacy to South European realities. We have assessed their, let's say, user friendliness to use, how much you need to know in terms of technicians, what are the skills that are needed to assess and to use effectively that tool, so that we can ensure that there's coherence between the tools that we select through this, through all the stages of the process. On the capacity building session, so we are already starting to work a bit on the capacity building materials, and also with the local groups, understand exactly what are the most adequate resources given their specific geography, their specific needs, and also their specific skills. That we know that we are working with small municipalities, so from 45,000 to 100,000 inhabitants, that's our goal. And so we know that resources and human resources are short, and we need to understand and tailor the resources that we use to the specific local needs. Activate these local communities of practice to guarantee the involvement, and of course then organize the sessions, open also to the private sector. The work with municipalities will be a side by side. Of course, we want to develop the plans with them, not for them. It's essential for these plans to be something that is useful and that it's owned by the municipality. Otherwise, it will be put in a drawer, and that's definitely what we are not aiming for. It needs to be also very owned by the municipality to understand how to implement the plan and how to monitor the plan, and of course adjust in the upcoming years. In the end, we don't know, well, I don't think we're going to have a recipe, but guidelines, tools, and inspiring plans. We have very different levels of data, infrastructure, stakeholders, so I don't think we're going to have 10 identical plans, but a wide portfolio of inspiring ideas. What these plans should have, so definitely establish goals for decarbonization of heating and cooling demand, and define a mid to long-term strategy. Identify high potential areas, so data and zoning are crucial, especially looking at the examples provided for renewable-driven energy communities. That's essential to understand exactly where are the potentials for that, and how municipality can drive and provide the example and get these initiatives going. Define priorities and opportunities, and of course provide technical and economical feasibility studies towards engaging the private sector also, and ensure that we integrate different initiatives that are already happening on the field. So that's also critical. Municipalities, and specifically when you look at municipalities that don't have district heating and cooling, what exactly can they do in this transition towards district heating and towards the decarbonization of heating and cooling? I think setting the legal ground and provide policy support for this kind of community-led initiatives to emerge, being a partner, gathering the stakeholders, it's essential to be a part of this. Reinforce regulations, specifically for new and renovated buildings, be more demanding in terms of thermal performance, be more demanding in terms of based solutions for heating and cooling, led by example, of course, at the urban public level, as already mentioned, but also addressing public buildings, so service buildings, public housing. It's essential also to address this stock of buildings, and also address the renovation and the kind of solutions you can install there as well. Provide incentives, also here addressing citizen-led investment, and of course engage with consumers-led initiatives and ensure dialogue throughout the different stakeholders. The top 5, again, just to share that we hope that these lead cities that are working in Plan for Cold will serve as models for other enabling policy recommendations. As I said, in Article 25.6, member states have to draft recommendations to support regional and local authorities to implement these policies. So it's essential to have examples from what's happening on the ground. What are the difficulties? What are the opportunities? How can we overcome the hurdles that we find in our pathway? And this is essential to draft feasible recommendations to all municipalities that need to comply with this obligation. This is it from my side. Thank you very much again for the opportunity to participate in this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jonas. It was indeed very insightful, and we all know that transposing the EED is very challenging for many municipalities, and this is why I think we need more initiatives like this to help them to transpose and to develop the heating and cooling plans. I will now go to the next and last presentation, which will be done by Vasiliki Drosu, who is the head of Solar Energy and Storage Department of Center for Renewable Energy Sources in Greece. And she's the coordinator also of the Ready for Heat project that she's representing today. So Vasi, I give the floor to you, and we are looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much, Martin. Let me ask you, how much time do you want me to spend?
Oh, if you can make it in 15, 17
15 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I'll try. Thank you very much. Thank you for
Thanks
the
a lot.
invitation. And this is a great opportunity. Following the presentations already by the previous presenters, I see a lot of synergies and a great area for collaboration indeed, because it's an important issue, heating and cooling, and it seems that we have to be more strong in order to reach our goals. Thank you also for the introduction. Indeed, I'm the head of solar energy, photovoltaics and PV department and storage department in the Center for Renewable Energy Sources, and also I'm the coordinator of Ready for Heat project. And we also participate in the Plan for Cold project, and this is a very good coincidence. Now, in the next slides, I will try to give you, of course, some, okay, perfect. Let me check again. Okay, this is my next slide. I will try to give you an overall of our project, and also I will present two interesting cases from Greece and Germany regarding the consideration of heating and cooling in the NSCPs in an effort to give the extent where the heating and cooling aspects are already considering in the plans of the future. Now, a few words about the Ready for Heat. Ready for Heat started in October of 2023. Now we are facing the last months of the project. This means that we have already concluded the most important part of our implementation. So this means that by visiting our site, that I'll give all the details at the end of my presentation, you will have access to the policy studies, to the review of the legislation, to the strategic policy priorities, online tools, knowledge sharing center, heat transition tool, and a lot of other information available and freely can be used by the participants. Now, the main goal of the project was acceleration of renewable energy sources in heating and cooling. We focused on 5 countries, emphasizing the work done in these countries, but also trying to give these countries as good examples for reapplication activities. These 5 member states are Greece, Germany, Portugal, Croatia, and Poland. And as I mentioned, now we're in the last months of the project. So this means by the end of September, we'll have finalized all our activities. Now, I'm sure that the majority of people participating in this webinar are familiar with the heating and cooling needs and energy consumption, but it's always good to have in mind, because with electrification, sometimes we forget that 50% of heating and cooling is the 50% of the total energy consumption is because of heating and cooling. So this is indeed a huge amount of energy. And heating and cooling is attributed to 40% of the global CO2 emissions. So these are facts and parameters that we have to keep in mind for all our activities in national level. And also what is important is that in household levels, the households represent almost 26% of final energy consumption in European Union. We can see in this graph that we have a specific consumption of household for space heating that we have a decrease in all EU member states. In some member state less, in some other more. For example, we can see Malta, Cyprus, Portugal, that they have less heating demands. We have a smaller decrease in contrary with, for example, Luxembourg or Romania. This is attributed mainly to legislation and other factors that is not part of this interesting parameters, but not part of this presentation, maybe another opportunity. And the last of 3 slides for the introductory part is that we have to keep in mind that the main use of energy is space heating and water heating. So we can see this graph that renewable and biofuels represent almost 23% of the final energy consumption in the residential sector, based on the data of 2022. Now, the legislation related to heating and cooling, we can have 4 groups, let's say: the Renewable Energy Directive, the Energy Efficiency Directive, the EPPD, Energy Performance of Building Directive, and the National Energy and Climate Plans, where in these directives we can see some specific, let's say, parts where heating and cooling is referred. For example, in Energy Efficiency Directive, we can see that it is referred to a mandatory reduction of energy consumption by almost 2% annually, the mandatory renovation of 3% of public building area every year, the development of local heating and cooling plants for municipalities, already mentioned very accurately by Joanna in the previous presentation, the upgrade, the expansion of decarbonization of district heating and cooling networks that we will see in the specific case of Germany. Now, the Energy Performance of Building Directive, we can see the important phase out of fossil fuel boilers by 2040. Okay, I'm not going to read them all because of time constraints. I will refer the mandatory renovation of all buildings into zero energy buildings by 2050. And the Renewable Energy Directive, we can see that there is a binding target to increase renewable energy sources in heating and cooling by 1.1 annually from 2026 to 2030. Now, the National Energy and Climate Plans, what are the national, the NSCPs, is part of the Clean Energy for All European packages. Mainly are strategic documents. They give the main strategic priorities of the countries, of the EU member states. They are separated, let's say, they have specific chapters, 5 specific chapters for decarbonization, energy efficiency, energy security, internal energy market, research, innovation, and competitiveness. So all the measures are somehow listed under these 5 categories. And so far, the first set of plans was finalized, submitted. Only 5 members met the mandatory submission deadline, and still there are 3 countries, at least based on the information as of yesterday, 3 countries are still pending. Belgium, Estonia, and Poland are still pending in order to submit the NSCPs. It's strange that Belgium is among these countries, but okay, I don't know what happened, what is the answer in this. Now, regarding the Commission assessment on the first batch of the NSCPs, it was stated that indeed there is a significant progress on renewable energy sources and consideration, but it is needed further improvement in the electrification of heating equipment and the rate of renovation of buildings. Also, it is mentioned that there are ambition gaps, but missing links and bottleneck that we will see in the next slides, where these missing links are considered. And all EU countries must submit their final updated national energy climate plans as soon as possible in order, of course, to reach the targets set. Now, as I mentioned in my first slide, the methodology was to focus on 5 member states on heating and cooling plants in order to highlight the main points of concern. I focused for this presentation in 2 countries in order to see the similarities, but also the differences among these 2 countries, because there are also similarities, but also there are differences in the renewable energy systems in heating and cooling. So in specific chapter in targets, as I mentioned before, the targets is the first important target in an important chapter in the NSCPs. We can see that in the next period, a rapid penetration of renewable energy sources in electricity generation and construction of infrastructure there is in both countries. In Greece, we can see that it is expected a dramatic increase in the electrification of heating of buildings through heat pumps. So heat pumps is the big hero for Greece. Specifically taking into consideration the ban of the sale of new oil boilers, but also the blend of heating oil with biodiesel with a specific target. So, as I mentioned before, heat pumps is the first player, let's say. Solar thermal systems also are there, but in collaboration, hybridization with heat pumps or with PV. What is not there is the use of biomass. So there's no extension of the use of biomass in order to avoid air pollution. Something that is not happened in the case of Germany. In Germany, we can see that in biomass, it is expected an increase of specific gigawatt hours per gigawatt installed by 2030. Also in Germany, we can see the deployment of heat pumps. It is a specific plan for heat pumps with the installation of 100,000 of new buildings of heat pumps every year. And also it is mentioned 65% use of renewable energy sources in all new heating systems. Here in the case of Germany, we can see also the district heating network. Maybe in next slide, I will move ahead. So in the building sector, we can see again the Greece and Germany cases, as I mentioned before, 2 countries. Also here we can see specific similarities, but also differences. For example, in Greece, we can see that there is a specific plan for residential buildings renovation rate, as you can see in the last point of the slide. So specific number of buildings per year has to be renovated. Special focus is attributed to municipalities. So we have municipal plans to reduce GHG by at least 10% for 2025 and 30% for the next period, and also the reduction of the primary energy used in residential buildings by a specific target. Also, here we can see that the public sector in both cases has an exemplary role. So it is expected to have specific measures for the public sector, both in Greece and in Germany. And in Germany, we can see also that there is a distinction between the large public buildings and the smaller ones, higher than 3 gigawatt hours per year and less than 3 gigawatt hours per year with specific measures. Now, in the NSCPs, the measures is not expected to be more focus or more analytical. I would say that is a more a repetition of the targets, maybe in the reconstructed, let's say, form. So the measures, again, is the promotion of renewable energy systems to cover heating and cooling needs, the ban of fossil fuels, the promotion of energy saving, training of renewable energy sources for installers and specialists. And if we can move in the building sector, again, it's a different way of expressing the targets mentioned in the first chapter, with an innovation strategy for the residential and tertiary sector, the expansion upgrade of heating and cooling networks. ESCOs are also there, and the service companies, hybridization of renewable energy sources, as I mentioned before, and the rest are shown here. The main findings of the NSCPs is good and bad. It seems that bad are more than good. Indeed, the NSCP is a good starting point. It's a powerful tool. It's, as I mentioned, a strategic document and not an explicit document with specific actions. They present improvements compared to the older versions. It is better with the previous document submitted by the countries, but what is quite significant is that there are gaps and inconsistencies between the targets and the planned measures. I would say that this is the huge finding of the NSCPs, that there are unclear policies, there are unclear investments attached to the targets, and in some cases there is a mismatch between what is written or what is expected by the targets and what is considered in terms of specific programs or specific allocation of funds. So there are unclear schedule and targets for the phase out of fossil fuels, and also it is stated that there are gaps in the transparency and the quality of climate and energy data. The conclusion is that decarbonizing the heating and cooling sector is quite important. I want to finish because I see the timing that is running. So I want to leave some room for questions. There is a detailed plan and timeline to phase out fossil fuels and relative subsidies. Okay, these are already mentioned. I'm not going to repeat them. I just want to refer that for Ready for Heat projects, as I mentioned in the first slide, we have a final conference event that is planned for 23rd of September in Brussels. You can see more details if you visit our site, and I will be very happy to be there and to discuss what we have and what we can do further in order to promote the heating and cooling in the renewable heating and cooling sector. So thank you very much one more for the invitation and for the synergy. And I leave the floor for questions to me or to the rest presenters.
Thank you very much, Vasi, for this very nice presentation.
Thank you, Martin.
Clear. And thank you for sticking to the time as well. Thanks to you, we have some time for questions. So again, if there are any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the question box. I could see that there was one question in the question box from an anonymous attendee who wanted to ask the speakers about the cooling side. So what about the cooling side, both, let's say, in heating and cooling communities, but also, for example, in heat planning? I saw that Ricardo replied, so maybe Ricardo, what do you think about cooling? Have you seen any heating and cooling communities or heating communities taking into account cooling as well, which still seems to be quite niche, and we call it the elephant in the waiting room a little bit? And then maybe Joanna can contribute as well if in the heat planning cooling was considered as well.
Yes, maybe what I wrote in the answer that maybe everybody can read is that at least to my knowledge, there are no cooling communities for the moment. And this is, I think, due especially to the fact that, of course, having, for example, a district heating and cooling infrastructure is much more complex and also more expensive. So that there is an investment barrier from a point of view and also a technical barrier. So far, I don't know about these examples, but of course there are examples of district cooling networks, and Martin, maybe you know it better than me. And but what I see is, of course, that with the climate change advancing, this topic of the cooling will be more and more important, and also so combining heating and cooling in the same infrastructure will become more cost effective.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. And you, for example, Joanna, what about cooling? Did municipalities consider it, for example, in heat planning, or is it still something that they are not looking at so much?
Well, as I said, it's a bit somehow the main driver of our project is exactly how to tackle cooling, because particularly in South European municipalities, it's already assuming quite a relevance. For instance, in Portugal, if you look at the statistics regarding health, we have more deaths regarding heat waves than we have regarding relevant cooling episodes. So definitely there's a pressing need to address this. Whether or not it's going to be via district heating cooling, I'm not sure. Of course, as Ricardo mentioned, these are more complex infrastructures. I think that we will definitely have a look into smaller networks. So I don't think we're going to have big networks supplying 100 or something buildings, but smaller networks that can effectively combine also waste cooling, also coming from industries, and that can be somehow injected into stable cooling needs in terms of the surrounding buildings. So I think that's the way we are moving forward, and definitely it's something to consider in local heating and cooling plants.
Yes, definitely. Maybe also I can ask Vasi, when you were going through the NECPs, was there like any mention of cooling as well, or any specific objectives? For example, in Greece, since the temperatures are rising, have you witnessed cooling somewhere?
The main focus is about heating. Indirectly, I would say, because as I mentioned, the key measures, let's say, is the ban of new oil boilers. So this is for heating. The requirement for heating to be at least 30% renewable fuel. So is again heating. Now, maybe indirectly, if we consider that it is required to have a renovation of buildings in order to improve energy efficiency. So somehow this can be considered also the cooling in specific areas, because there are countries, and this is the case for Greece, that we have totally different profile of consumption in the country. For example, we have the Creta. Southern and northern part are totally different in terms of heating and cooling needs. But in any case, it is considered a country where cooling is important, but heating is considered more directly than indirectly. So if I'm trying to check also what is written in the NSCP, it is not directly referred for specific cooling measures. Only indirectly in terms of improvement of energy efficiency of building that incorporates also the cooling aspect.
Yes, thank you very much. Indeed, there's already a lot of work to decarbonize heating, so I guess that the time for cooling to shine will come. We've also seen two very nice examples of community projects, one in Italy and one in Spain. So maybe I can go to Italy, where we have a very nice example also how to recover waste heat from a local crematory. And as we all know, there's a lot of waste heat that is wasted in Europe every year. So we need to find ways to reuse this waste heat and recover it. So it's interesting to see this project. And I would like to ask you, Manuela, about the current situation of the project, where you stand, and what will be the next steps? Where do you go from now? And maybe a second question, what or how do you see the role of citizens in the project and maybe its development in the future?
Yes, so actually the beginning of the construction of the district heating network is set for this summer. So we hope to start seeing some actual implementation of the project early this summer. And as for the citizen participation, well, actually, local citizens can directly participate in the future cooperative. Some as workers also, while others could become members, of course. And by joining the cooperative, residents can also contribute, yes, we said, to sustainable forestry practices ensure a reliable biomass supply, and benefit also from potential incomings or revenue sharing mechanisms. So yes, citizens can actually become involved in the management and decision-making processes of the cooperative.
All right, thank you very much, Manuela. Maybe now we can also ask Pilar about their case in Spain. So Pilar, maybe could you tell me a little bit more about the key challenges, for example, in terms of legislation? Do you find that legislation is supportive towards such projects in Spain and in Gran Canaria, or is it lacking?
As Ricardo said before, the directive renewable energy has been partially transposed into national law. And the first law in Spain, which introduced this definition of renewable energy community, is a law that is related with the electricity sector. So in this law, the renewable energy community was introduced a new entity in the electricity sector. But really, there's not any other law that can define exactly what is or what is not. It's not a renewable energy community. Since 2021, there have been online a national program to give economic incentives to renewable energy community projects, and from the first call to the last, the heating and cooling renewable energy projects or communities have been allowed. So it's possible, and in fact, the last two calls for proposals in this national program, the projects proposed by to operate the heating and cooling sector were prioritized in the program, so they could obtain about 60% of the financial cost, the cost of the investment. So of course it's not it's not transposed in the national law, but the heating and cooling renewable communities in the last 2 years have been developed a lot.
Thank you very much, Pilar. And maybe also a question for Chiara, so that you don't feel left behind. We were talking also about the role of stakeholders in the heating communities. So maybe could you tell us a little bit more about how stakeholders were engaged in the ConnectHeat project? What kind of activities were put in place in order to engage them actively and regularly? Because of course the engagement part is it's a very important part, but it's also quite a challenge for many.
Yes, sure. So please then Pilar and Manuela complement me if necessary. We foresee specific local activities just to engage stakeholders and bring them towards the pilot implementation. So all the pilot areas, municipalities or regions, first of all, develop an engagement plan. So they started interacting with the local communities and key stakeholders and trying to increase their awareness on the topics and their skills and basic knowledge, let's say. So they all develop and organize specific initiatives, I told before, of information, communication, and also direct interaction, so consulting activity, let's say, just to get their position, their awareness, and their possible interests and availability to be engaged. Then on the basis of this kind of processes, a small group, a core group of stakeholders that we call the CEB, Community Energy Board, were selected. And this group was, let's say, the core group that which supported the development of the pilot project. So, and the basic group of future members of the community energies. This was more or less the path and the process we followed. Each municipality followed. So different levels of activities that's to engage the local communities and the territories, and then select a group of really interested people and committed people towards the pilots. So, and they were directed work in the implementation of the pilots, of each pilot. Quite challenging, let's say, yeah. But I think we could reach really interesting results, both also as for challenges and barriers that we so as for the work we have to do to overcome them. For example, Manuela talked about that quite clearly.
Indeed. And we've also had the chance and at the same time the challenge of having a lot of pilot sites, 6 different countries, 6 different contexts. So of course,
yeah. So we had really good initiatives. For example, in Spain, in the as for the involvement both of touristic structures and citizen, private consumer. For example, in Croatia, you could hear about that in the previous webinar. Students, university and students were directly involved, and in the engagement process, and also in the community energy board. And this was really interesting from our point of view. So.
Thank you very much, Chiara. Maybe one last question before we close the webinar, going to Ricardo. When we started the project, heating and cooling community was not a topic almost at all. And I would like to know if you've yourself perceived a shift in this, if we are talking more about heating and cooling communities nowadays. What is your stand on that?
Yes, for sure. It increased a lot over the last 2 years and a half. Maybe it's not just because of us, but we see that several actors also at European level, I can mention ResCop or Energy Cities, are much more interested, and that means that also we have guidelines, several examples. We have guided visits, as I was saying before, which are also very important. So we have really a lot of tools now available for heating and cooling communities. And I think that also now the European Commission is much more aware of what they are and of their benefits. What we still miss, of course, is the what I was saying at the beginning, so that we need to implement now changes, especially in the legislation. And so for doing that, of course, we can have a push from the European Commission, but then we should go to the national levels to change the legislation and to include this kind of communities as also there.
Yes, definitely. And change takes time. Okay, I would like to thank again to all the valuable speakers, and also for your presentations, which at least for me, have been very interesting and full of insights, information. I would also like to thank to the attendees for your interest and for joining today. And I would like to remind you that we will share both the recording and the presentations on the project website and on YouTube, so you will be able to review the slides or the webinar, find the information that you're interested in. And yeah, please keep an eye on the project website. As mentioned, we have a lot of results coming up, and we are happy to keep in touch. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank
Have
you.
a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.